gifts as
Right,
samples.
there we go. Oh,
I like the medallions.
I like the jerky, but, no, he's actually picking his daughter up in Maryland from college.
Oh, okay,
He's on the road.
okay.
Okay, all right, I'd like to call to order the November 15th meeting of the Ware Ethics Committee. starting
2023.
2023, thank you. Keep me honest. Start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do we have any amendments to the agenda? I hear there's an extra communication that you have.
I do, I have
Okay.
something under correspondence.
Okay, so I have anything there. Anything else? No, all right. We have the minutes. I believe I emailed those all. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
You have a
Great.
second.
Any amendments to the minutes? We're good? Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. Okay, great. Okay, so the next one is communications. So I feel like we've been talking for 6 months or so about theoretically things, and as we're starting to go live, I have a ton of questions, and so call me on it, give me advice on how you want to handle these things. Talking about communication one, the first one I sent out, there's inquiry questions, there's general questions that I could respond to, and then there may be some complaint stuff in here. So I could respond with a couple different forms. Some of the questions are things that are on the FAQ or maybe should be on the FAQ, so I don't know if you want to talk about the generic questions or have me point that person to one another. Yeah,
I have just a point of inquiry,
Sure.
and it's a process that we sort of have kind of talked about, but not necessarily cleanly established, which is when all things being what they are, the correspondence should come in, and it's going to be now
Ethics Committee.
centralized
Yep.
way, meaning that there'll be an established email address, all correspondence will come in through that way so that we all see it.
Correct.
And then we have to make a decision, I think, about if we're reading it verbatim into the record,
right,
or if we're making reference to it. It was difficult for the correspondence that you sent because it was a lot, it was many, many things. And I was reading it to try to get to question,
right,
like, am I being asked a question or am I being told a narrative about something?
sure,
And I never arrived at a point where I felt like I was being asked a question.
correct. So there was two, did you get both of them?
I think I only read one.
Okay. So the one that I sent, the second one, was definitely a full narrative, and
I did not get that.
you did not get that one. This
Only
one?
because I did not,
Okay.
I just didn't open
So
my
that one
email
was
today.
only narrative, and it was sent to several board chairs, so,
That's the one I was referring to.
okay. Yes, and I don't, there was nothing actionable for me either, I don't think. So your question, though, I'm sorry, I'm jumping
Well,
ahead.
so we haven't, I know we've determined a process in terms of identifying information that somebody may have asked a question without getting into the specifics necessarily about parties named in a correspondence. We haven't stated if we were gonna read verbatim.
Oh, into the record?
Into the record. We haven't identified that, as far as I can tell. We haven't talked about it.
Sure, that's fair.
And then I don't think I received the first one.
Okay,
That you're referring
sorry.
to. And then I was a recipient of an outreach.
Okay,
And if, I can talk about that a little bit if you want me to. I was a recipient of an outreach correspondence, not through an official means, meaning that it came through like a messenger,
sure,
What is an outreach correspondence?
meaning somebody did outreach to me, it wasn't in the form of an email. It was in
Somebody
the form of
texted
a
her.
messenger text. It was not in email form.
What's the difference, and why do we care?
Well, an email can be forwarded.
An email can be forwarded, a messenger text is something that there's no way for me to forward it other than to take a screenshot of it.
Or copy.
It's not the same.
It's
kind of
similar to you're at the dump and
And-
somebody asks you a question, as opposed to.
And this was given to you as an individual or as a member of the ethics committee?
It started out as an individual,
Yep,
okay? And very quickly moved into how do I? How do I, make a complaint? How do I directed this person to the forms and said, this is how you get that question answered. This is the process to get that
Right.
question answered. And then the person began to continue to talk, and I said, I want to stop you there. I need to advise you that I'm going to need to report in this correspondence to the committee. And they said, oh, okay, thanks.
done, yeah,
But I just wanted them to know that this wasn't a one-off.
right.
And a one-off is what I'm trying to avoid. I think it's what we all should avoid, because I think it's not a good practice.
So if there's any kind of communication, and I'm using that as writing, email,
Yep.
message, whatever, that's given to any one of us,
Yeah.
then our responsibility is to forward that or give that to the chair, and then that will be brought up at the next meeting?
So
as to
I think
communication?
there's a few nuances, right? Because you're gonna run into people that you see all the time in town, and people are gonna say, hey, you're on the ethics committee, what do I do? And I think we're trying to set that precedent right now. I think if I get an email at my ethics committee, it's absolutely going to all of you. I think that's the reasonable thing, and that's not just because I'm chair, I would do
Yes.
that on the school board as well, right? Because this is a ethics committee question,
Yes.
and I don't have the power to make judgments on my own, nor do any of us. We work as a single body, so you should have that information. Where it gets tricky is when it's a messenger, when it's a
A personal
text,
conversation.
Right. And so I think what you did was great. If somebody asks for basic information, they're gonna ask us wherever they run into us, Girl Scouts or.
So what do we say?
So we say, the forms and the process and the FAQ is on the website. You can also get it at the town office. If you're gonna ask specific questions, I really need to report that to the board because that's where we
Well,
discuss that.
Shouldn't we say, if you're going to get into specifics, then you need to write to the entire board
Yeah,
and not deal, and not
Yes.
respond as an individual
correct,
Yes.
to that person?
right.
Yeah.
So, is that
That's
what you
I
did?
Yeah, I said, here is the process. This is where you can find the forms. I recommend that you write up whatever it is that you've got and send it to
The
Wendy
chair.
Perry the chair at,
And what did you do with the message itself?
sitting on my phone.
And is that something that the board should see?
I don't know. That's my question.
I trust
But
you.
it was sent to you as a member of the ethics
It
committee.
was sent to her as a
It was sent to me
person.
as a person related to, it started out as a question. And it started out as a question related to my former role
As-
as town moderator.
Okay, legitimate.
And then from that point, I looked at the question, I responded to that question and said, I don't recall, or,
Whatever. And
Whatever.
that should not be part of
and
this
then,
committee's material.
and then the next part of it, right, was because they had a question about ethics related to that role, and related to town roles. They had an ethics question. I said, yep, I'm gonna stop you right there. This is your process, here are the forms, my recommendation, and then they went a step further and said, well, what if I wanna do, and I said, I'm gonna stop you right there, put it in, there's a narrative section in the form, you can ask all of those questions. I need to let you know that I'm gonna report our correspondence in,
So
have a nice night.
is the part of the message that relates to ethics, which you responded to in a very neutral way, is that something that the board should have if the individual subsequently does something in writing?
I don't know. I mean, and this is, obviously, it's not my role to decide. I think when it comes to Messenger, when I get Messenger, it's usually Facebook. And so it's a private Messenger account that somebody's crossed that boundary, and you have to sort of push it back.
Well, that's what Eileen did.
Right, exactly. So the fact that something came into her private thing and she said, you have another process, I think we're all gonna reach those, and I don't know that that becomes part of the record.
As long as, in this case, Eileen, does not make any statements or provide any information, but refers the individual, as you did, to the website, then we should not receive that.
Right, that is my impression.
Is that reasonable?
I'm fine with that if you're fine with that. I just needed you all to know that this correspondence had occurred, and that was the way I handled it.
I appreciate that, and I think honestly, I mean, if it becomes a complaint or an inquiry, and you feel like you need to recuse
Sure.
yourself, or you have information at that time, you know, I would trust that you would use your judgment in an ethical
Okay.
way.
I think that these will happen less now that there's a clearly established path to get to us, and that it's being socialized more, that the documents are on the website, that they're available here soon, I'm hoping. And the way to be able to do outreach.
And now that there's a Ware Ethics Committee at Ware,
Yeah,
Dr.
I
Nisha
think
Goff.
it'll happen less.
yeah,
And, it's never been my practice to weigh in as a one-off when I've sat on a board or a
Yeah.
committee ever, because I'm not a lone ranger. I'm
Right.
part of a larger
well,
process.
and I think too, because in my other chair role, I would answer questions as much as possible and end it, but I really feel like the Ethics Committee, by its charter, we want to be ethical, fair, non-biased, and transparent. And so if I start answering questions onesie-twosie, even in the chair role, that's sliding into the Wendy's making judgment calls on her own, right? So
Okay, so all of the questions that we got in another piece of correspondence,
the first correspondence, yes. Yeah, so do you want to take a look at that, since we're talking about
Maybe
them?
we could get copies of it, because I've got it on my phone, but I just don't have a way of copying.
Naomi, can you make a copy of a email? Oh, I like, you have
Do we
the
have
size font that I can read. It was smaller.
Three, how many you want? Three?
I think just two, because Neil and I have it.
Oh,
Good.
no, I didn't see that one, so.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. It's okay.
And I do think you're right, the more and more we consistently respond and point to a process, it'll figure itself out.
so what we're saying is that anytime we receive any kind of a communication, oral, writing, email, messenger, or something else, our response should be, hey, we've got this process, go to the website, find it out, and find that out. And once we've done that, then we have no further obligation to take that correspondence and bring it to the Ethics Committee. Is that right?
Well, I think what I would be comfortable with, and I leave this up for discussion, I would be comfortable with reporting out, like, hey, somebody contacted me, I sent it to them, just so that we knew that there was an inquiry.
Sure, and that goes to the transparency
Thank you.
piece too,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Thank
You
you.
know, if, thank you, ma'am. That's what I'm comfortable with.
That's fair.
Just because I think I just think that the transparency on this process is so important because of the nature of what this is.
So, when you report back to us, I was contacted, and I told them, and I referred them to the website. Do you feel that you should be telling us from whom you were contacted or anything like that?
Let's talk about it. I don't know.
I feel like the inquiry form is anonymous, right? So if someone's asking an inquiry, they have a process to go to, and we expect, there's an expectation of privacy. I don't know that when somebody reaches out in a messenger, they contact me on the street, if they have an expectation that if they talk to me for whatever reason, I'm going to out them, I'm going, like, share their information.
Sure.
I mean, that's just my gut
I,
instinct, but,
I agree. I think
Yeah.
that as long as Eileen said, we report the fact that we were contacted, that should be the end of it. No names, nothing else. If in the future, that contact becomes relevant for some reason, that's a different story.
sure.
But, so right now, the position is that contacts are reportable in general terms, not specifics, and that our response to all of these contacts should be, check the website.
Yes, because I think.
And there's an anonymous process for you to ask questions.
Exactly.
Inquiries, yep,
Because I think that, even, even entertaining a question, you're in an advisory capacity, right? And we're not going advisory capacity alone, so I
Right.
think that
Okay.
is the safest.
Make sure that that process is recorded in the
Sure.
minutes.
I sure will.
Good.
And I appreciate the discussion, Wendy, about, the possibility of an anonymous advisory, because that helps me answer my question.
okay,
Because when it happened, I knew that I immediately was like, I don't wanna have this conversation.
right,
I don't wanna have this conversation, because if I open up this conversation, I'm weighing in, and I
Right.
don't wanna weigh in
Right.
in that way. If I'm gonna weigh in, it's gonna be officially as a part of this process, which I signed up to do.
right,
So, but the ability of a party to anonymously ask the question helps me to understand the framework of not reporting out who contacted, if that makes sense.
I think that's very appropriate.
Yep.
Absolutely.
because you have not weighed in, you have not, right. And it's actually, that's why I brought these two communications, I mean, I would have brought them anyway as chair, I got this email, it goes in the record, fine. But, I'm struggling myself, and I'm gonna shut up and let you read this other communication for a couple minutes, but as to what, like, there's been conversations that I should answer questions that are already answered on the board, that are set law, that's on the website or whatever. But as you start going, it goes into a place where I can't go, so I'm trying to figure out, do I just, here's the process and don't answer questions, or answer some questions but not some questions, so,
The safest thing and the appropriate thing would be for you to do exactly what Eileen did.
okay,
Not answer questions, explain that these questions can be submitted in anonymous form formally to the board, and a response will be given, that there is a process, and if you go to the website, you'll see that.
I think that's fair, and, because also that forces the process, whereas if I'm gonna answer some questions, then where's that line and that boundary, so that's absolutely fair.
Now, there was one question which I suppose you might have answered. Does the EC have an official email for correspondence?
I have done nothing, and this, actually, what I printed out actually says, adding your questions to this week's communication, so that's all I said.
Okay.
So, I didn't answer, but yes, but you're right, it starts with something that's a simple information gathering, so,
Right.
The FAQ discussion, which I think is later on the agenda, is
Yep.
timely in relationship to
Sure.
this, the first section of this correspondence. And I think, for the party that sent this email, stay tuned, they're gonna get a lot of their questions answered.
in the FAQ, yeah.
And, which is good. There is one question on here, I think, not to skip ahead, not to
Nope.
reveal the coming attractions, but, I think the final, or the second draft of the FAQ document that I sent, has a total of 6 questions.
Yep,
And,
Did you just send that today?
I sent it.
I forwarded it
Yesterday, I
yesterday.
only sent it to Wendy.
and I
I did-
forwarded it, but if you
I
didn't
did-
see the other, it went with the other
Okay,
communication, so
okay.
do you want to?
Yep,
Yeah, I've got that one.
thank you.
Okay.
This
So-
is version 2?
Six-
Yes,
the
because
six-
the links are blue. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I think, let me see.
Here's version 1, I can tell you that.
No, it's got 6 questions on it, so I think that's the right one.
Does it have 6? Yep, version 2. It's right there. So, there is a question, the last question, is not on the FAQ, but would be a valuable addition, I think.
I think so.
And if I recall correctly, we answered that. We asked and answered that of ourselves.
We did.
And,
At this time, there is no public comment.
Correct.
okay, just. And that, you know, when I think about, I'd like to add that, and we can get to it later.
Sure.
I'd like to add that, but I'd also like to talk a little bit about the why
Okay.
on that. Because public comment is like that's a hot topic, you know, and sort of a controversial one, but the reasoning behind
Sure.
the structure that we've established has to do with, I think, safety, and managing a process,
Right.
and being respectful in
Right.
managing that process. It doesn't have to do with, because people, if they have comments, are free to write them up and send them in,
Absolutely.
you know?
And if they-
And if they did that, they would be appended to the minutes.
Exactly.
Right.
But,
And they
And-
can do that anonymously.
They can do an anonymous inquiry, sure.
yes,
So there's a lot of different ways to put topics in front of this body, without a public comment,
Correct.
as we traditionally understand it,
Right.
I guess is what I wanna say. So I may need help wordsmithing that
Sure.
one, but, in the observation section, I'm looking hard for a question.
Yeah, I don't see one.
what do you mean, you're looking for a question?
So in the second body, there's a bunch of like 5 specific questions, and then there's a big chunk. Yeah.
Okay, this,
Okay, yep.
oh, I see, this is the same for both, okay. This is this, and this is this.
No, these are 2 different emails.
Yes, right,
Right, yeah,
right, right.
yeah. So this first one starts with some process questions, and then there's observations, and it's
Right.
somebody did something, I think somebody said something that wasn't right, and there's a lot of strong feelings there, but as an ethics board, we can respond to general inquiries or specific complaints. And I think we spend a lot of time discussing that we don't want to be weighing in on when we're asked for opinions without the process, right? And so, yeah, I had that same, and I think that's when I got to, when I started, I was like, I could answer this question, I could answer this question, and then the further it went, I felt like, at what point do I say I can't answer more, when it's all in one body? So, yeah, I didn't see anything that I could respond to specifically in that second half.
The fact that people want to communicate, as both of these letters do, their opinions about a whole variety of things, is something that is not appropriate for us to deal with. We've decided on a particular process, and if they have inquiries, they can make it through that process, and we will respond. Both, I guess we could do it in writing, but certainly we will do it orally here. And we will have some sort of a record of that in the minutes. And so if a person didn't hear it, they would get it in the minutes.
Right, or they could see it on YouTube. But
Right,
yeah.
okay.
So, and in fact, that's when I went, I think that this is not something actionable, this isn't something that I can truly respond to. The second half, first half, there were some questions, and I think you're right, most of these are in the FAQs, which I can point to because the draft one and soon to be this one will be online and say,
Yeah, and so when I say I was reading this looking for a question, the reason that I'm doing that is because we're in this transition phase of moving from, preparing to implement an implementation, the implementation process is not yet clear
Right.
for folks. And so I was reading this for a question to see if somebody was asking for an advisory opinion.
Right.
And they did not yet have the document that they needed, or they
Fair.
did not yet have a process established. The first section of this are general questions that we can answer. I believe that we answer them in the FAQs, and I believe that some of our forms speak to them a bit more specifically.
Right.
There is one thing that perhaps we do not address sufficiently. We say that we can't, somewhere in here, you say we cannot, here. 4,
We do not have the authority to enforce the code of ethics.
right, but shouldn't we say something about the fact that we report our recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen has the may have the authority to do something. For example, they may have the authority to remove a member from a committee.
Sure.
I don't know if that's the case.
Well, and that, you make a really good point, like, we specifically, within the power or scope of authority of this particular committee, don't enforce, but we do make recommendations, and those recommendations may
Go-
be actionable.
But they're actionable, the recommendations are made to the Board of
Yes.
Selectmen and are actionable, if at all,
By them.
by that board, not by this group.
Exactly.
And we need to say that here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So, I didn't bring my own copy. So, I will
Oh, I gave
write
it to
myself
Neil.
a note to append it.
You didn't bring your own copy of the
I didn't.
FAQs?
I didn't, I thought I did, but I did not print it out.
Here, why don't you need this, you
Thank you.
take
You
it.
think I need it more than you do?
I will share with the
Thank you.
chair.
I think you just took my copy, so, and gave it to Eileen, so,
Copies of the copy?
yeah, probably,
Copies of the copy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we need copies. We should get 2 copies of that. One for
And
Wendy,
also the
one
other
for
letter too.
Yeah, and-
Suzanne and one for me.
sorry.
Do we have the other letter too?
Sure, did you want a copy of the other letter?
Yes, please.
Okay.
For some reason, I'm not able to find a way to copy these
Okay,
things.
can you, I shall get 4 copies or 3 copies of that,
I'm leaving the room.
okay?
Okay,
Let the record show, our
Track her
secretary
down.
left the room, so no one's taking minutes.
track her down.
She gets a photocopy.
Well, as we were getting closer to our official opening, looks like we've got a few leaks coming in, that's okay. It's good that we're getting the information.
Yeah, and anytime you start a new process, it's a little bit bumpy, right? Because
Yeah.
some people have seen the YouTube, you know, a few people. Hi. Some people have been watching our website and seeing that there's more forms. It's just, it's getting that kicking. It's gonna be a little bit bumpy, and so
Initially,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm
then it's-
excited that people are interested in ethics, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Let the record show, our keeper of the minutes is back.
Yeah,
Yay.
hope nothing happened in my absence. All right,
Yeah.
let's see. I think I'm gonna pass these down. You can
Take what we want.
distribute them as you will.
I want this.
Did you read the second one? Did
I was reading it,
Okay,
yes.
it's easier on a piece of paper than
see.
the phone.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
Do you wanna go back and discuss it, or
This one
now
is
that you have it
yours.
in front of you, or?
Well, it's just opening up a huge Pandora's box.
Yeah,
This-
Do you have an FAQ now or not?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, I need an FAQ,
Yep.
and I need a copy of the other letter.
Do you have,
She needs both of these.
yes, but you only gave me one back of the FAQs. Is there one more, or no? Okay, that's fine, I don't.
No, this is the only FAQ
Okay,
for
well,
today.
we'll share. So here, you can have that one. Okay. So,
Shall we go over these?
yeah, so,
Are
so,
we done with our,
so,
that discussion?
so 2 things. So I can, it's fair to say the FAQ will be online, and then it will say, and if it's okay with you, I'm gonna just read those 5 questions just because it's not online yet. 1 second. But as far as the other piece, if there is a complaint, the complaint form is online, and we can absolutely start that process. If there's anonymous inquiry form, also online, that you can ask more generic questions. So I'm making an exception just in this case, because I think these are the questions that are out there quite a bit. And they're on the FAQ page, so once that's online, you'll have that. But we have it, burning news, we now have an official email, which is wherenh.gov.
Not where.nh?
No.
Wherenh.gov.
Okay.
Right. And so that will come to the entire board, so you can certainly do that. However, if it's going to be an inquiry or a complaint, the right process is the forms, which you can also get online, which was probably what we'll say if you write the email, but, right now, the complaints aren't electronic. You drop it in the mailbox here. We do not have an expediting complaint process, although we have talked about if the sky is falling and horrible things, maybe we'll take those on a case-by-case basis, but the process is the process. Because, and this is just my opinion, and I think everybody else has opinions, but I think one of the things we're trying to do is really talk about what is ethic and what is, what is the code of ethics and how should that be implemented in our town. And so it's not about like witch hunts or going after one particular person or another, right? I think it's really about the making sure that our elected officials, employees, and committee members are acting in an ethical,
Manner.
And
manner.
I think it goes back to, you know, I didn't mean to.
No, go, because I started to ramble.
So we've talked a lot about the fact that, you know, we are the last step in a process.
Right,
In a lot of different situations, you know, there are other bodies that are responsible for, or I don't even want to say are responsible for, or can hear issues related to, for example, certain elected officials, certain, you know, appointments. There are other stops along this, and that we are, after you've exhausted them by the basis of the way that we structured this, once those are exhausted and you still feel like there's been no remedy, this would be that stop. So, you know, and I think I said it flippantly a couple of meetings ago, and I didn't mean it to be flippant, but, you know, I don't see this as like a life or death, you know, like, I'm hoping that the ethics crisis isn't going to result in somebody majorly being hurt. Like, that wouldn't, you should go elsewhere.
right.
If you have a fear of significant harm or serious damage, right? Like, there should be other steps before us. So I'm hoping that becomes clear for folks. And there isn't, you know, I don't see it as a rapid turnaround. Some of these issues, if they were that easily remedied, would be. You know, I think some of this takes some measured conversation and reflection. So,
Wendy, should you make it clear that the fact that we have an official email doesn't mean that folks should email us in general terms? It's really for the inquiry or the complaint. It's not correspondence. For example, if
Right.
we were to receive either one of these that we've received through this new email address, we would treat them the same way that we're treating them now. This is
Right.
correspondence. If you wish to go further, then follow the forms and the
Correct.
procedures that are set out online, and we will deal with them in a public manner in that way.
Right.
So,
Right, and I think that's really important, right? So this is a venue, we don't have public comment. If somebody wants to make a public comment and they want to email it in and it gets attached to the minutes, it's great. But you're right, if it's going to be inquiries or complaints, there's a process for that. That's what you're saying, yeah. And I think what I'm hearing you both say is what we're trying to do is have a civil, well-thought-out conversation about what is ethical and where, and how do we advise on to how to be ethical and civil and which is different than, this is a court of law, and we've got court cases and remedies and all that sort of thing, right? And I think that also will become more evident as we have more and more questions, but, okay, so, and we talked about who enforces it. We don't have enforcement capability. We advise other committees and HR and people who can do something, or an advisory board. And as far as recourse, if people refuse to enforce code, I think, the only thing I see is if you feel like someone is not, if they're not,
The code is not something, the code is not a statute.
right,
It doesn't get enforced in the same way that one thinks of a statute being enforced. It's an opinion. The opinion is given to others, the selectmen, and the selectmen may or may not reasonably decide to do something, undertake an investigation, have a discussion, take some sort of action. But that's the selectmen's job, and if the selectmen choose to do it in a way that an individual feels is inappropriate, the selectmen have a wide discretion as to what they want to do in terms of responding to our opinion or advice.
right. And I think the needle I was trying to thread there is if you feel that, I hate to say Board of Selectmen, but that's who we were talking about, did not do something you wanted as a response to what we said, and you feel they're acting in an unethical manner by not doing what you wanted, you could put in a complaint against them, but that's not, I guess that's not what she's asking, but that's a very, you shouldn't come back every time if things don't go a certain way, I guess. I'm babbling, because, yeah. You said it well, you're good. So that was the first correspondent, those are the general questions that'll be on the FAQ, that'll be on the website very shortly. The other correspondence, I was one of many people who received it, and I did not see anything actionable there as well.
And I was gonna with that one, because,
You were going to do what?
no, I just wanted to make an addendum to what she was saying. Because you were one of many parties, I would be hesitant to do anything right now anyway, because it may come round
Right.
anyway.
So this is just a FYI for you guys, there's nothing we can do
Well,
with that.
I have not read this, the second one.
Sure.
The fact that Wendy got a copy,
Well, I was one of the 5 people that got it, but yeah, or
no,
10 people.
yes, but
Right.
it's addressed to you not as a school board member, not as a
As an
individual.
ethics committee
It says
person.
Yeah.
ethics. And it
Through
was-
Wendy Curry, chair,
Right.
so it's listed.
So it's, I suppose this still has to be appended to the minutes. But I haven't read this, so I don't know why, but the question is, if we receive something as individuals, in this case, one of many individuals who received this correspondence, is this something that we as individuals need to bring forward to the committee?
So if it ever comes to my ethics email, it's going to y'all. And I feel as a chair, that's my role. It doesn't mean it's actionable, it's just for your information.
Okay. But if
but-
it just went to Wendy Curry, you would not have brought it to us?
If it went to W. Curry, I don't want to give my email. If it went to my private email address, and it was somebody,
This thing actually came to your if this only went to,
it went to Wendy Curry Ethics
yes,
email.
but if
so-
it went to,
Right.
whatever your
Right.
private email
Yep.
is, just as Eileen had a message, then you would be under no obligation to bring this to the full committee. Is that correct?
I think it's
Unless it was specifically dealing with ethics. You're going to get lots of email.
I know, but, it
That
touched,
one's hard to answer, and I, not to hop over you, that one's hard to answer because In this case, it went to so many different people that you would treat it, for me, it would treat it differently than a one-off coming just to me. I would, and Wendy, you correct me if I'm wrong, I would probably have handled it the same way if it came to just me, that the one that came to just me, which is, hey, I got a correspondence. I referred that person to our process.
So, right, so on the second slide, I copied the ethics committee so they can be fully aware of what has occurred. And so when it said that, I'm like, I'm sending it to the ethics committee. But I'm not asking you to read it, I'm not asking it, and there's nothing actionable here. But if it
Okay.
went to just me and it didn't even mention the ethics committee,
No, okay.
because what I don't want to do, I don't want to open that venue so that when anybody's unhappy with anything,
You're not Dear Abby.
right.
Okay,
You wouldn't want me to be
so
happy.
both of these will be appended to our minutes.
Yes.
And at that point, they're public documents, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
yep. And
Okay.
then, so we answered the generic questions. And we'll have a process for complaints and inquiries, and I think the only other, I think that's handles the communication piece. So we do have the FAQ. We had no new mail, so I did check. No mail yet. So we want to talk about the FAQs.
I made the changes that were recommended at last meeting. I linked, and one of them was to link the specific form to all three, which I did.
Yep,
And added a statement about who can use the process, being residents of the town aware, and that these documents are also available at the town of Ware clerk's office, even though I didn't know if that was yet fact. It will be, I believe, and we may have to talk to our clerk to see if there's a location that
Sure.
we can, that might be an action item. So, other than that, I just added on the, statement about making recommendations, although we can't, we can't impose penalty, we would, make a finding and a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen who may choose to take action. And that could be a number of things, but choose to take action.
Yes.
Then I'd like to add the question that came in about public comment, and put it on our FAQ.
yep,
And then I can do that and send it to you, Wendy. With that, with those changes, are you, as a group, interested in moving to post this?
could you repeat number 4, the change that you just made?
Sure. So our ethics committee opinions the same as legal rulings? No. Ethic committee opinions, advice, and outcomes are not the same as legal rulings and are only advisory in nature. The committee cannot impose monetary or other penalties. The ethics committee cannot overturn the decision of any other body. The ethics committee can make a finding and recommendation to the Board of Selectmen who may choose to take action.
I don't think that's optional. It's not that we can, we must. Okay, the ethics committee,
will,
no, the ethics committee opinions are presented to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration and action if they deem it appropriate.
is
Something like that.
presented the right word, though, because we're not going to go to the Board of Selectmen each time we have one and present, right?
No, you don't have to present in person, you can present in writing.
Okay.
We just send them a copy. Or,
The ethics committee opinions are presented to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen may choose to take action. Is that,
Yep,
that's fine.
okay.
Okay, couple of other things. Last sentence on the printed version of 4, the ethics committee is not capitalized, it is capitalized everywhere else.
Oh, okay.
And under number 3, after yes, it says can be found here, but there's nothing. There's no blue. You see,
Oh, okay, I'll link it.
something has to be put in
Sure,
there.
I'll link it.
Okay.
Okay.
And where are you going to put in about where are you going to add the information about public comment?
7,
It's going to be separate?
number
Okay.
7.
And what will it say?
What do you think?
Right, I think she was asking for some wordsmithing help, so, at this
Oh,
time,
a
there's.
6, sorry, I'm
Oh,
just,
go ahead.
committee has to be capitalized in the first sentence. Oh, and before we get to 7, on number 2, second line, this code which describes a set of standards of behavior that I think it should say town leaders and staff should aspire to.
Okay.
And we seem to be capitalizing town.
Bless you.
God bless you.
I take it under number 5, that blank is going to be filled in some way?
Yes, because we just got the email.
Okay,
That will be our new email address.
okay. Second paragraph on that back page, an elected official, there's a space in the blue type between those two things. Is that just a typo?
No,
No,
that's
that's-
the way that the link populated.
Oh, okay. Again, and then the last committee needs to be capitalized. Same
which
thing
one?
in both
Oh.
cases.
On number 6?
No, this is number 3, top of the second page.
Yep.
Third
Okay.
word in, it's committee capitalized. First line, an elected official, committee capitalized. And the last line, committee capitalized. And then committee, again, on the first line of that next paragraph.
You were a teacher, weren't you? I want a red pen, Neil.
No, I have the red pen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You should red pen it and send it to me.
Okay,
All
and,
right.
and
See?
keep going down, ethics committee gets capitalized.
I got you.
Okay, so you can go through this and,
I will.
yeah, okay, thank you.
But let's talk about number 7. I need
Please.
wordsmithing.
Right,
Yeah.
so I guess the question is there public comment at the ethics committee
No?
meeting? No? I mean, is that the question that you're trying to?
Yeah, I think it's a great question to,
Yep.
because I think there's a structure and a process for most town bodies meeting, right? And usually there is a public comment period at either the beginning or the end of the meeting, and so it's a departure from a typically, I mean, and it's local established.
Sure, and there is, especially when it's,
The planning board doesn't have public comment.
They don't?
No, not when I was on it. Maybe things have changed. I don't think the Conservation Commission does. I guess what happens is that if somebody comes in and wants to say something, the chair, in his or her discretion, allows it or not. But I don't know that there's a formal decision that's been made. The Finance Committee never had public comment. In fact, they
No, they don't have-
specifically didn't.
They don't have. But that has been a discussion, if I recall correctly, a couple of times, like should we or shouldn't we?
Yes, you're correct, and it
You
was
know.
decided no.
Yeah, so that body said, no, we're not
Right.
gonna do it. But,
come on in.
Oh, yeah, we gotta,
That's all right, you're welcome to listen in.
I guess I'll sit down.
So,
so our first visitor.
yay.
Yeah.
So I think that's good information that not all the committees do. I think in particular, we've had several discussions about this, and this is not helping you with wordsmith at all. But that we have a process specifically to stay with we have a process for communicating.
So, 7, may the public comment at an ethics committee meeting? Question. Okay. And then the answer would be no, and then we need an explanation. Ethics
We have several ways to.
issues are handled formally thank you. Using the forms and procedures set out where, online? Well, no, they're not only available online, right?
They're also available theoretically here.
Well, if you're looking at the FAQ, you know how to find it. That's, by the nature,
Above.
above, yeah.
Thank you. But that's too harsh. There needs to be one more sentence that softens that somewhat.
Have a nice day. I'm joking, I'm kidding, I'm joking.
I don't want you to drink any more coffee before you come to these meetings.
No, I mean, really,
Possibly follow up with not all committees allow PC.
No, no,
public
no.
comments.
no, I mean, what we're trying to do is have a thoughtful discussion around ethics, and we're trying to stay focused on the issues. And so at this point,
At this time, we don't entertain public comment?
right,
Entertain being the fun word? No, I have to think on that.
yeah. And, you know, you can always ping me and we can talk or whatever. But to your question, I am good. I think we need to have what we have. A fact, FAQ is a living document, and so I think what you have is,
Update,
with Neil's
timestamp it.
updates, date, timestamps,
Yeah.
the one that was the draft is already under the minutes, and so by adding
Okay.
what we've got this week, I think that's gonna be very helpful, given that I'm hearing those questions
Do we-
already, right?
Do we need to take a vote on this?
That's a great question.
And leave it to you and Eileen to fill out whatever you wanted to for the rest of 7?
If you guys are okay with that?
I'm okay with
Okay.
that. I move that we adopt the FAQ statement presented on 11/15 with the addition, with the pedantic changes, and technical changes discussed.
Yep.
And with the addition of number 7, may there be public comment at an ethics committee meeting, ? With the response to be prepared by Eileen with the concurrence of the chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor of accepting the FAQ as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, great. Neil, we went 1 minute over. So your dinner may not be totally cold, so at this point, do I have a motion to end, or do you want me to just end it?
What's our next meeting? Just
December 6th.
12/6
Yeah,
at
6
6
o'clock.
PM?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so this closes the last November, where Ethics Committee meeting. Have a wonderful night, and, you know, stay online because we have another committee coming up in about a half hour.
And all of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
You too as
Happy
well.
Thanksgiving.